What is happening here? It's the Erskin Music Show, and it's the summertime, and we are off. The season is ended. We're in touring season now. We're in camp season. We're in summer mode. We're on the beach. We're on vacation. We're at Six Flags, but we're not. We're here today. It's Juneteenth. Get this thing up. Special celebration of Juneteenth. We're going to talk a little bit about this. Why do I have Divergent in the screen today? Why do I have Divergent in the screen today? Well, first of all, my daughter had not seen that movie before. And even though it's not the greatest movie in the world, it's still maybe a little bit underrated. And so we watched the movie last night, and I thought, here's something that I can sink my teeth into. Here's something that I think indicates where it is that we're at in America in our lives. Divergence. And in particular for me, at the Erskin Music Show, this thing down here. Well, Juneteenth, you just rest over here for just a second. Here, Juneteenth. I don't know where this thing is going to go. Here, I'll put it right here. I'm going to tell a story about this flag here in just a second. And we're going to talk about Juneteenth, the special celebration. But I thought, why don't I come on here and help educate people, help inspire people? But back to Divergence real quick. In your face, sucker! We started watching that movie, and I thought, the premise of the movie is you put people into these 4 different camps, and that's kind of what you do in life based on your personality. And I thought, man, I'm in so many different camps. I'm conservative politically. I'm a Christian spiritually and politically and everything else. Because if you're a Christian, anything, you're a Christian, everything, right? So yeah, I'm Black, but our family is half white. So all the different things, I fit in all the categories, and I'm just not going to go quietly into anybody's box. And so I wanted to come on here, Juneteenth today, Erskin Music Show, celebrate with you guys just a little bit, educate, inspire, encourage, challenge you guys just a little bit. I don't really think we need to have a Juneteenth flag that looks like this. In fact, can we get Divergent off the screen for just a second? Big head's off the screen. You see that flag back there? It's called the American flag. We need to have that flag. But we'll talk a little bit more about that today. Your comments are welcome. There's people who don't even know I'm coming on today. So this is a secret episode. I'm coming back in your face for just one episode this summer. And then I'm going to shrink back into anonymity. Well, study and reading a lot. You ever read this commentary before? This is incredible commentary. 1st and 2 Samuel. Anyway, let's get the Erskin Music Show started today. We got a lot to talk about. It has been a couple of weeks since we have visited this, and so let's get to it. All right, we're back once again. Hey, just like riding a bike, the Erskin Music Show down there. I want to catch you guys up. There's so many things going on this summer. So many things. Excuse me, things that I need to respond to, that I should be responding to. Some pastors have resigned recently. Some bigger known pastors have resigned recently, but I'm not going to get into that today. I will certainly take that matter up and see what the fallout is by the time we get back in August. But one of the things that I did want to do today is just let you guys know that we've been working on some new music, and we hope to have that out to you relatively soon. All the people in the backgrounds, they're in negotiations and talking about all the different things, working on a book. Thanks. And just celebrating another incredible year. Thank you guys for all of that. But let me give you guys some behind the scenes videos from a new song that I've been working on. The song is called Never Gives Up. The premise of the song is that the Lord is the one who takes us there all the way to glory. He's the one who never gives up. Oftentimes we want to give up. Oftentimes we grow discouraged, weak. Even young men grow tired and weary. Even youths faint in their strength. And so I wanted to show you guys a little bit about this. I said it was like riding a bike. I don't even know where that button's at anymore. I'm looking around the room like the button is somewhere here in the room that I can push. But no, it's essentially here on the screen. Here's me in the studio and sharing this with you guys via video. Well, let's do this. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, we back again, once again, the Erskin Music Show. Hey, and I really want, before we get out of this season, I want you guys to know we are working on some new stuff, so I'm going to sneak up here real quick. I'm going to jump out of the control room at the studio. What are we doing here? Bang, bang, bang. Bangers are coming. Bangers are coming. Had to sneak up real quick. We working on bangers in this thing. So yeah, we got a couple of bangers that are coming out, or at least one banger that's coming out. The second verse is, it's really kind of choppy. So yeah, we're working on that. Here's a little bit more from that scene. So yeah, then you guys know we're putting the best of the best out there, and as soon as we can make an announcement about a date that is going to be released, we will make an announcement about that. Let me get to the tags. This is the reason why I want to come back and do a show like this on Juneteenth is because this has always kind of been voted one of the best shows that's out there, but sample size was relatively small. I voted as the best show, and so kind of have to take that for what it is. All right, let's get into some of this copyright stuff here, just to make sure that you guys know that when I'm using source material, I'm using it legally, guys. I like to do that. This is the way that it should be done. I'm an artist. I recognize that Section 107, the Fair Use Clause, is there for the purposes of criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. I recognize that is there for that reason, and that reason only. I'm not trying to use or license this music as my own or profit from this music in any way, shape, form, or fashion. However, for those who are watching on various platforms, I do so appreciate that. I'm a low-key clap for you guys. So at the YouTube audience, Facebook, X, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Rumble, we appreciate you guys so very much. It's amazing. The show hasn't been on, but people keep subscribing. I don't know what that is, but if that's what you like to do, then just keep subscribing to the show. Just do what you do. All right, C.S. Lewis. We're going to get to some C.S. Lewis here real quick today, and then we're going to get into some Juneteenth stuff here, which is the occasion. And I'm going to tell the story of this flag. I'm going to tell the story of how I got this flag. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be educated about some things today. I'm going to be a little controversial today, but I don't know that I necessarily even needed to say that, because if you've ever watched the show today, I kind of challenge a little bit some things. And I'm not so sure we need a Juneteenth flag that looks like this. But what I do think we need is more emphasis on this flag. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. Let's get to prayer. We're going to be in the book of James, chapter 2, here in just a few moments. But grab your Bibles. Let's get to this. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you, Lord, for your kind spirit, powerful spirit, searching and deep spirit. That would divide asunder the intentions of our hearts. It may look one way on the surface, but it may not necessarily be that way on the inside. You do the work on the inside. And so I pray, Lord, that you would continue to do that work so that on the outside, we would radiate the presence of Christ. We would radiate the love of Christ, that we would radiate the veracity of his word, and that we would give you all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, grab your Bibles. We're going to be, like I said, we're going to be in the book of James. Grab it. Let's do it. Evil intentions of the hearts, thoughts, all of those different things. Let's get to this discussion. All right. I'm going to do a little bit here with C.S. Lewis today. And you just can't go wrong when it comes to C.S. Lewis. Well, you can go wrong because he's fallible. But we're not going to go wrong on this one. He's going to talk to us about pride, and something we need to hear about. Let's get into chapter 2 here in James. My brothers and sisters, believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ must not show favoritism. Suppose a man comes into your meeting This man is wearing a gold ring and fine clothes, and a poor man in filthy old clothes comes in. If you show special attention to the man wearing fine clothes and say, "Yeah, here's a good seat for you," but you say to the poor man, "You stand there," or "Sit on the floor by my feet," have you not discriminated amongst yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? Subject matter today is the issue of pride. C.S. Lewis is going to make no mistake. He's going to aim at the heart, aim at the target of what so often leads us into idolatry and every other sin that springs from pride, favoritism, as it's discussed here in the book of James. And so let's hear the words of C.S. Lewis, and I'll rat-a-tat-tat a little bit on what he's talking about here, and then we'll get to our Juneteenth stuff. It's Juneteenth. This is not going to be long today. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time. And I just figured out that if we keep the show at about 52 minutes, we can get it under 2.0 gigabytes, which is good for transferring files. But anyway, all the stuff you learn in the off season.
And the virtue opposite to it in Christian morals is called humility. You may remember when I was talking about sexual morality, I warned you that the center of Christian morals.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon.
Stuff off of here. We don't need to make no money off of Amazon. Suckers.
Well, now we have come to the center. According to Christian teachers, the essential vice, the utmost evil, is pride.
Okay.
Unchastity, anger, greed, drunkenness, and all that are mere flea bites in comparison. It was through pride that the devil became the devil. Pride leads to every other vice. It is the complete anti-God state of mind. Does this seem to you exaggerated? If so, think it over. I pointed out a moment ago that the more pride...
Now, real quickly here, as I'm thinking it over, I've listened to it already and had some time to think it over, but as you're thinking it over and thinking about pride, there's a lot of things that we will just, trot out. Anger, we'll have jealousy, we'll have a lot of different things, but the root, when you go back to that, there's something that is prideful in our hearts that it allows those things to spring up. It allows those things to make manifest. And here is the crux of what C.S. Lewis, I believe, is getting at by way of how it applies to us. And it is this: sometimes we create situations, even spiritual gatherings and situations, and this is where I believe James comes in which we can perpetuate one's natural inclination to pride. We can gather in such a way that we gather with just the beautiful people. Let's just put the beautiful people on stage. Let's just put the articulate people in position so that our ministry looks good. Sometimes what we've seen in some of these situations, and this is not every situation, I'm not trying to speak to every situation, but sometimes what we've seen in situations is we platform the beautiful, we platformed what we perceive to be the talent without platforming character. When you get into that, then you perpetuate sort of clones of these people whom we are aspiring to be like, because we see them up on a public platform and we want to be like them, although behind the scenes, the character is not necessarily the same thing. And so we can create cultures where this central core of pride just perpetuates itself. Say, for instance, you're with James, you come to church. Hey, the rich people, you guys sit over here. You get the good seat. You get a good seat for you. Poor people, we don't have a seat for you, but you can at least be in here. So we're going to platform and elevate the rich, the beautiful, those that can kind of flow with our level of culture. Those that are not, you can still be here, but you don't really get a good seat in this whole thing. And so that can become a culture. And when that becomes a culture, oftentimes, or at least sometimes that can become a detriment. So let's see how else C.S. Lewis is talking about pride as we're thinking about what he's talking about here.
Pride one had, the more one disliked pride in others. In fact,
and that's
if
true.
you want to find out how proud you are, the easiest way is to ask yourself, how much do I dislike it when other people snub me or refuse to take any notice of me?
If you can't say
or shove their oar
say
in,
ouch,
or patronize me, or show off. The point is that each person's pride is in competition with everyone else's pride. It is because I wanted to be the big noise at the party that I'm so annoyed at someone else being the big noise. Two of a trade never agree. Now what you want to get clear is that pride is essentially
Ooh, did he say two of a trade never agree? I like the way English people speak. I got nobody in America says that. Two of a trade never agree. You do the same thing, but you don't agree. You won't agree because even though you do the same thing, you won't work together. You won't work together because that person might outshine you. You won't work together because that person might outdo you, might be out honored. I just got finished reading 1 Samuel. I'm teaching through a series called Jesus 66. And so I'll take the Christology of every book of the Bible, point to Christ, give the basic themes of the book. And I did 1 Samuel. Do you remember that refrain that was so vexing to Saul? Saul has slain his thousands, David his 10,000s. I don't know how that song went, but I may write a little tune. I may write a little ditty for that. Actually, here's my guitar right here. You know what? This is Songwriting 101, and this is the Erskin Music Show, and I can do whatever the heck I want to do on my show. So spontaneously, we're about to write a song called Saul Sucker. In your face, sucker! Okay. Here's a guitar. Let's see what we can do. On the spot. Challenge myself. Challenge myself to tune. All right. All right. Saul has slain his thousands. David is 10,000s. Saul has slain his thousands. David is 10,000. All right, that's the song that vexed. That is the particular tune. I was dialing it up and just saying, Lord, give me the actual tune and melody that was so vexing to Saul. Saul has slain his thousands, David his 10,000s. Okay, we're back on pride here. Let's let C.S. Lewis keep talking about this for just a second. Aren't you glad you got this special edition of the Erskin Music Show?
competitive, is competitive by its very nature, while the other vices are competitive only. So to speak, by accident, pride gets no pleasure out of having something, only out of having more of it than the next man. We say that people are proud of being rich or clever or good looking, but they are not. They are proud of being richer or cleverer or better looking than others. If everyone else became equally rich or clever or good looking, there would be nothing to be proud about. It is the comparison that makes you proud.
Think about that for a second.
The pleasure of being above the rest. Once the element of competition is gone.
Is C.S. Lewis a socialist? If we all had the same thing, if we all were equal, if we all were in a utopian society, C.S. Lewis, you better account for yourself. Big Head is off the screen. I don't know what Big Head is doing today. Big Head, you gonna show up for the show today, or you just gonna hang out and just do your own thing today? You're just gonna hang out over there and just make comments off the scene about what I need to do. What do you need to do? You need to get on the screen. So yeah, Big Head is telling me that C.S. Lewis will be unavailable for comment. I'm still thinking about that last thing.
That is why
he's right on
pride is essentially competitive in a way the other vices.
But I don't know about that, because I don't know about what it is that he's saying in this point, because even if we all had the same thing, even if we all wore, let's just say, the red shirt, we used to do this in school, right? I don't know if you grew up, you had a menu, a dress menu, or school uniforms, or some semblance of that. You know, they started putting some of those implementations in place because you would have people who came to school and, you know, in the classroom, you know, it's just this disparity. Some of it is safety, obviously. Some of it is uniformity. Some of it is cohesiveness. Some of it is, you know, thought-provoking in a lot of different ways. But one of those things is you cut down the disparity as you look out across the room between people who, you know, they got all their clothes from Kmart, and Kmart doesn't even exist anymore. So you know them some old clothes. Got all their clothes from Kmart, as opposed to these kids who are, you know, shopping at Neiman Marcus, and they got all these different things. And so you're looking across and it's like, okay, we can clearly see, because you can't hide money. You can clearly see who the rich people are that are here, the rich students that are here, the well-to-do. So I'm going to treat those kids a little bit better, because their parents, you know, they might come to school, you know, raise a fuss, or they might be the first to donate to the PTA, all those different things. Whereas these kids right here, we're not going to pay as much attention to them. And so one of the rationales I know is that we would level the playing field. We all look the same when we're in our uniform. And I know there's other concerns. Don't message me about that. But some of that is, it doesn't make any difference if we're all going to wear a red shirt. Some people's red shirt is going to look different than the other people's red shirt. And that's just human nature, the way that we try to differentiate ourselves and distinguish ourselves. And I guess maybe more than the social utopian point that C.S. Lewis may have been hinting at. I can't ask him. He's not around anymore for me to ask. Maybe I'll just be walking around heaven someday and just bump into like, who are you? Oh, you C.S. Lewis. Okay. So anyway, I was having a devotion one time and I was talking about socialism and the fact that there may have been a principle that you promoted that promoted socialism. Was I interpreting that correctly? So I'll ask C.S. Lewis about that later. Don't worry about that. So for now, his point still stands. We will figure out ways to differentiate based on our pride. It's our human heart that's going to differentiate ourselves. Even if the dress menu is the exact same, we're all wearing this maroon color shirt today. If there's 100 people who are wearing it, there's 200 different iterations. If there's 2 people who are wearing the red shirt, there's going to be 14 different iterations of the red shirt mafia out there today. So I'm going to let C.S. Lewis, we're not listening to all 17 minutes of it. Don't worry. Just a couple of more minutes because C.S. Lewis has made a fantastic point today.
Are not. The sexual impulse may drive 2 men into competition if they both want the same girl, but that is only by accident. They might just as likely have wanted 2 different girls.
We got a lot of ads today. I guess people want to know if I want to figure out how to play piano. No, I don't. I want to hear about C.S. Lewis.
Will take your girl from you, not because he wants her, but just to prove to himself that he is a better man than you.
Ooh,
Greed may drive men into competition if there is not enough to go round, but the proud man, even when he has got more than he can possibly want, will try to get still more just to assert his power.
It's interesting because now I'm in 2 Samuel, and you recognize the basic theme, the Davidic covenant that takes place there. David has risen to power. We've seen the decline of the house of Saul. And now when you get into 2 Samuel, and I should say, go ahead and read 1 and 2 Samuel. It takes about 2 hours to read 1 Samuel. And it takes a little under 2 hours to read 2 Samuel. You have the first 20 chapters there, and then the last 3 chapters of 2 Samuel was kind of a, epilogue of what events have occurred in the life of David. It's really not chronological at that point, but it is a good summary of the life of David. By the time you get to chapter 11 and chapter 12, you see David committing adultery with Bathsheba, and you see the cover up and deleting of her husband Uriah. When we get flagged for YouTube saying certain buzzwords that YouTube is like, what? Hey, there's somebody in Nashville that's saying some words here that we need to pay attention to. Let's throttle that down. So Nathan comes in chapter 12, and he is giving a story about a man who didn't have very much, but what he had, he took really good care of. He loved what it was that he had. It was just a little bit. And a rich man comes in and just runs roughshod over all of that. And David is incensed about this tragedy that's taking place. Why would the rich man in his hubris take from this poor man the very simple and little thing that he had and then try to acquire it to be his own? Nathan looks at him square in the face like I'm looking at you and says, you are the man. And he recognizes the jig is up. What C.S. Lewis is talking about is true. And it was true before C.S. Lewis started talking about it. Within our hearts is this sinful inclination toward pride, competition, and the ugly ways that can look. Now, you guys know I'm writing a book. And in my book, I'm talking about there is a healthy form of competition, but it can't be a healthy form of competition. Listen, I voted my show #1 show. I feel like I have the best live stream show, the best actual live stream show. Now, this is not edited. Like if I mess up on something, if I say something, it is recorded to perpetuity. We might be able to edit something a little bit later, but what people are watching live is live. Best live stream show that I've ever seen is the Erskin Music Show. Now that can be competitive because I'm looking at all the other shows and I'm saying, hey, my show is better than your show or my show is this. But really, and I'll talk about this in my book, the competition should not be. Now, obviously, you have to have some metric by way to be able to say that. You can't have never seen another show and be like, hey, my show is better than that show. But the area of competition is competition amongst self. And so I'm looking at the show that I did last week, looking at the show that I did 2 months ago and saying, this show is now better than that show was. And I'm going to compete and always drive to make the show better because the Lord deserves that. And so don't get it twisted. I'll be saying a lot of things on this show that may strike. And obviously, there are things that are clearly pride. That's why I love doing messages about humility and pride and all those different things. It's a thing that pops up because that so easily resides in my heart as well. I'm not trying to absolve myself from that, but I did want you to recognize that some of what drives this show is a healthy competition to make the show better than it was 10 minutes ago, to make the show better than it was 2 minutes ago. Always pressing forward to make the show the best that it can possibly be, because there's so many times, especially in the ranks of Christians, and I'm around a lot of Christians, we offer the Lord straight trash. And we say, well, that'll just be good enough. He'll accept that. The Lord doesn't deserve our trash. He doesn't deserve our leftovers. He deserves the absolute best that we can possibly bring to the table. And if the Erskin Music Show is not better in season 9 than it was in season 8, then that's an embarrassment to our Lord. And it should be that somebody, instead of heaping praise upon me for doing the show, should look at me and say, Erskin, you should be ashamed of yourself. You know that you could do better than what you did before. And so that's the kind of healthy competition that I believe drives us. And since I'm writing a book about leadership, if you're a leader, you better be driving yourself, 1, to humility, 1, to service, and then 3, always making yourself better by the power of the Holy Spirit, to make you wiser, to help you build a team, to help you fill in the gaps, to help you build something to the glory of King Jesus, and seek first the kingdom of God. All right, that's enough for our devotion today. Before any of these dumb ads keep coming up, let's do this. I don't ever look and see if you guys have any comments, but maybe you do. Maybe you don't. Maybe I don't care. When I'm doing the devotion, I only look at the comments after the fact. But you guys are welcome to comment on the devotion. But that is the devotion for today. All right, without further ado, let's get to some Erskin music. This is a song that's going to be coming up very soon when we get next week to various concerts in Wisconsin. So folks in Wisconsin, if you're paying attention now, it's even better in person.
Causes and casualties. If it's a war, we're losing battles to fight within. If everybody wants to win, be careful of your friends. Yo, the day is coming with no more of these rivalries. The timeline in an age of possibility. Crying out, nobody's listening. Listen up the bad dreams, yeah, they thought they had me. Keep calm, going along. New days coming and it won't be long. Amplify, Jesus is coming louder. If you didn't know, he is the king of the mountain. Keep calm, going along. New days coming and it won't be long. Amplify, Jesus is coming louder. If you didn't know, he is the king of the mountain. Seems like everything is going crazy, but is it possible that maybe prayer time is getting lazy? Don't hate me, cause I'm just saying. If we really wanna change things, it ain't working to maintain things. Jesus, yeah, he saved me, and he changed me, cause he's the king of the mountain. Keep calm, going along. New days coming and it won't be long. Amplify, Jesus is coming louder. If you didn't know, he is the king of the mountain. Keep calm, going along. New days coming and it won't be long. Amplify, Jesus is coming louder. If you didn't know, he is the king of the mountain. I can see clearly now that he knows what he's talking about. Yeah, oh. And when lightning strikes, you won't have time to think twice. Oh, no. Talk to him.
First he came to serve, now he's king of the mountain. And then he laid his life death, now his life is abounding. Hope strong, won't be long, few more steps. No death, unlimited breath, a reset. The moon red, the sun dark, the sky black. The horn blow, thunder roll, the sky crack. Every eye is gonna see, everybody bow the knee. Everything is coming clean, all before the King of Kings.
Keep on going along. New days coming and it won't be long. Amplify, Jesus is coming louder. If you didn't know, he's the king of the mountain. Keep on going along. New days coming and it won't be long. Amplify, Jesus is coming louder. If you didn't know, he's the king of the mountain. Mountain. Yo, he's the king of the mountain. Yeah, yeah. If you didn't know, mountain, mountain.
You're coming back.
King of the mountain,
Oh my goodness. That guy. I'm trying to tell you what, I'm trying to do a show. All these people. Hey, here's Art, real quick.
Hey, I'm Art Guzman, a late purveyor of the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ. You're watching the Erskin Music Show. And remember, it's not just about watching, it's about joining him and proclaiming Christ.
Okay, you can join and proclaim for Christ. Don and Steve want to say a quick word, then we're going to get to our breaking news today. Top story, Juneteenth, why I got this flag, and how we can educate ourselves, and my semi-controversial take on Juneteenth.
Dawn
And I'm Steve,
of the Dawn and Steve in the Morning Show.
and you're watching the Erskin Music Show.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. All right, let's get to this. Let's get to top story for today, Juneteenth. All right, so I grew up hearing about Juneteenth and really didn't have anybody that really explained a lot about Juneteenth. I knew that it was a day that, at least in Texas, Black people celebrated, and it was just kind of a Black person holiday thing. And so I'm gonna play some Michael Knowles a little bit later. I think he's a little bit exaggerating to some extent on the importance of Juneteenth, but having grown up in Texas, obviously I would have a different vantage point than other people would throughout the country. There's a lot of people who'd never heard of Juneteenth before, never knew what Juneteenth was about. In Texas, and at least where I was growing up, especially in Austin, Texas, there was a lot more vigilance in East Austin, places where I would travel, places where I was growing up, with regards to celebrating Juneteenth and understanding what that was all about. So I was fortunate enough to grow up with an observance of Juneteenth and recognize kind of what that was in terms of the uniqueness and the special nature of that. TED Talk here that I'm going to be playing goes into a little bit of the history of Juneteenth and the various ways that it's celebrated. I think it's a good overview for it. And I'll talk a little bit about the flag that I have here, and then talk a little bit about what I think has happened that has made this difficult, at least challenging for me on Juneteenth. But here we go. Let's get to it. Without further ado, got a video. It's a good one.
One day, while hiding in the kitchen, Charlotte Brooks overheard a life-changing secret. At the age of 17, she'd been separated from her family and taken to William Nealon's Texas plantation. There, she was made to do housework at the violent whims of her enslavers. On that fateful day, she learned that slavery had recently been abolished, but Nealon conspired to keep this a secret from those he enslaved. Hearing this, Brooks stepped out of her hiding spot, proclaimed her freedom, spread the news throughout the plantation, and ran.
She said, I gotta go. Y'all sapsucker. By the way, we free.
That night, she returned for her daughter, Kennedy, and before Nealon's spiteful bullets could find them, they were gone for good. For more than 2 centuries, slavery defined what would become the United States, from its past as the 13 British colonies to its growth as an independent country.
Now, if there's any parts of this that you want to say, hey, maybe, because I know there's some historians who watch this as well, and I appreciate you guys when you come on with a rejoinder of some sort. If there's anything that you feel like needs to be added to this or taken away, this is just a general summary, just to help people who are like, hey, I don't even know what Juneteenth is, to get an idea of what it is and why. Probably me growing up in Texas has a lot to do with the fact that this is not anything that's uncommon. I'm surprised now that it's a national holiday, but I can see politically what Biden was trying to do. Well, anyway, I'll get into that.
Slavery fueled its cotton industry and made it a leading economic power. 10 of the first 12 presidents enslaved people. And when U.S. chattel slavery finally ended, it was a long and uneven process. Enslaved people resisted from the beginning by escaping, breaking tools, staging rebellions, and more. During the American Revolution, Vermont and Massachusetts.
In essence, they simply said people who were in slavery didn't want to be slaves. Duly noted. Point well taken.
Abolished slavery, while several states took steps towards.
Now, I know there'd be some people who would be like, actually, slavery wasn't that bad in certain places in the United States. And sometimes, depending on who your slave owner was, it could have been a very nice proposition, especially if you were a house slave, like you had good life. And I know there'd be some people who are arguing that, but I think on bulk, like large majority of cases, people did not want to be enslaved and disenfranchised. So I don't even know why. I don't even know why I feel like I had to say that, because I know that there are certain people who I have heard make the argument that slavery wasn't that bad in the United States and slaves didn't really care about being slaves.
Gradual abolition. In 1808, federal law banned the import of enslaved African people, but it allowed the slave trade to continue domestically.
Okay, let's see how we can.
People were enslaved in the U.S. when Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 18.
Let's see how we can placate this. Let's see how we can financially benefit from this. Let's see how we can massage this. The arguments that we have concerning the Bible and slavery, although it's not the same kind of slavery that we have in the United States, are those in which Paul is not taking on the institution of slavery, but he's taking on the institution behind that, in which is the human heart and the human condition. He's not taking on the institution, but he's taking on the condition of slavery, which is in the heart. So too, it would seem to me from the historical research that I've done, there is a sense in which you're watching this piecemeal disentangling of slavery take place in the United States of America, because as you pass laws, that doesn't necessarily necessitate, that law is going to be obeyed in all places, or that people are respective to the geography and the financial association with slavery are going to be equally as approving of the law that is being passed there, leading to a separation that we'll talk about here in regards to Civil War.
60. Lincoln opposed slavery, and though he had no plans to outlaw it, his election caused panic in southern states, which began withdrawing from the Union. They vowed to uphold slavery and formed the Confederacy, triggering the start of the American Civil War.
And I think that's an important historical note there. Lincoln wasn't coming in roughshod and just saying, hey, this is the issue, this is the hill, this is the hill that I'm going to die on. And if we don't get slavery taken care of, there's a representation argument that is going on there, especially as you begin to look at the first term presidency there and some of the discussions that are related to slavery. How do we disproportionately assign these states access, opportunity, coming into the Union, slave or free? There's a lot of discussion that's going on there, but look, the slippery slope has always existed in terms of a form of rhetoric. If this guy gets elected, and am I talking about Lincoln or am I talking about Trump? If this guy gets elected, then everything is going to go to seed. We're all going to die as a result of this guy being elected. We cannot elect this person because the whole country is going to go down if this person gets elected. Am I talking about Trump or am I talking about Abraham Lincoln? Well, in the 1860s, it was Abraham Lincoln, and that was the rhetoric in the South.
War. A year into the conflict, Lincoln abolished slavery in Washington, D.C., legally freeing more than 3,000 people.
Okay.
And 5 months later, he announced the Emancipation Proclamation.
Y'all good in Washington, D.C.? Y'all good? Okay. All right. Let's see if we can fan this out just a little bit.
It promised freedom to the 3.5 million people enslaved in Confederate states, but it would only be fulfilled if the rebelling states didn't rejoin the Union by January 1st, 1863.
Okay, giving you guys a little bit of an ultimatum here. Y'all can get back on board, or we can continue to duke this out. War is kind of dragging on a little bit longer than we had thought. but there's some important stakes here. We're raising the stakes.
And it bore no mention of the roughly 500,000 people in bondage in the border states of Delaware, Maryland, Kentucky, and Missouri that hadn't seceded. When the Confederacy refused to surrender, Union soldiers began announcing emancipation. But many southern areas remained under Confederate control, making it impossible to actually implement abolition throughout the
I love the way they made all the characters in this look like the Proud family. This is kind of awesome.
South. The war raged on for 2
the
more
old
years.
Proud family, by the way.
On January 31st, 1865,
Animation is quite good.
The 13th Amendment. It promised to end slavery throughout the U.S., except as punishment for a crime. But to go into effect, 27 states would have to ratify it first. Meanwhile, the Civil War virtually ended with the surrender of Confederate General Robert E. Lee on April 9th, 1865. But although slavery was technically illegal in all southern states, it still persisted in the last bastions of the Confederacy. There, enslavers like Kneeling continued to evade abolition until forced. This was also the case when Union General Gordon Granger marched his troops into Galveston, Texas on June 19th and announced that all enslaved people there were officially free.
By the way, I'm coming here to tell you that long ago, this thing called the Civil War actually ended. And actually, there's nobody around here that's slaves anymore. Galveston, you guys good with this? If you're not, I got some troops with me that'll persuade you in the most gentle fashion possible that slavery is over. June 19th, a day of celebration.
And had been for more than 2 years.
This is in Texas, by the way.
At this point, people remained legally enslaved in the border states. It wasn't until more than 5 months later, on December 6, 1865, that the 13th Amendment was finally ratified. This formally ended chattel slavery in the U.S. Because official emancipation was a staggered process, people in different places commemorated it on different dates. Those in Galveston, Texas, began celebrating Juneteenth.
So hence, me being from Texas, that makes more sense that I would have heard about it and it would be more of a big deal. Having grown up knowing all about it. It was just, I don't know, probably from the age of, 8-10 years old, I knew that there was Juneteenth. What are we doing Juneteenth? Well, we're going to get some watermelon, we're going to get some fried chicken, we're going to go out and barbecue, and we're going to celebrate the fact that this is when slavery ended in Texas, in the United States. And yeah, this was what we do. And I'm not saying that just to, troll and make any type of aspersions about black people eating watermelon and chicken and all those different. That's literally what we had at these celebrations: watermelon, chicken, barbecue, and sometimes it was really good when we'd have some ribs and then some nasty stuff, some chitlins and stuff like that. But I don't eat all that. But anyway, it was a celebration. Juneteenth. I'm from Texas. That makes sense.
A combination of June and 19th. On the very first anniversary of General Granger's announcement. Over time, smaller Juneteenth gatherings gave way to large parades, and the tradition eventually became the most widespread of emancipation celebrations. But while chattel slavery had officially ended, racial inequality, oppression, and terror had not. Celebrating emancipation was itself an act of continued resistance, and it wasn't until 2021 that Juneteenth became a federal holiday. Today, Juneteenth holds.
Let's get into this for just a second. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and say this. There's just been a lot of goofy stuff that I've seen in my lifetime. Having grown up, at least a portion of my life, in Austin, Texas, as liberal and crazy as that city is, especially in East Austin, watching the political machine and how that operates in black neighborhoods and in black culture, there's just a lot of gaming of black people that's going on and has gone on for a long time. It's nothing new. So when Biden makes Juneteenth a federal holiday, we're going to celebrate. We're going to make this thing bigger than it ever was. And now this is a federal holiday. Everybody should acknowledge this. I look at that and I go, okay. I see what's going on here. There's a political thing because 95% of African Americans vote Democratic. To keep that large power base in place for elections, let's pass some laws for black people. Let's pass some things that are going to benefit black people. Let's pass some things that we can look at and we can say, look, we made Juneteenth a federal holiday. Here's the problem, though. As much as I appreciate the sentiment behind June, I don't even know if you can see this. I don't know if you can appreciate the sentiment behind Juneteenth and the historical veracity of Juneteenth, that there is such thing. There were people who went into Galveston on June 19th and they declared, hey, the Civil War's been over 2 years. You guys are actually, you're going to actually be free now, since you already were free. And no one to quibble with the history whatsoever. I think more people need to learn about the history, but I'm concerned that this needless pandering to Black people so that you can continue to get their votes in a party that, if you just excuse me, is absolute garbage. The Democratic Party is absolute trash. It has done nothing but debilitate and further restrict the progress of Black people in this country for years. You look at welfare, you look at affirmative action, and you look at things where people are actually convinced that the way to move forward is to get reparations for things that have happened in the past. Now, we're going to have to deal with reparations on a totally different day, on a totally different subject. But this endless, ceaseless, mindless pandering toward Black people makes it seem as though Black people cannot think. Black people do not think and will not think about what's actually being offered to them. What is actually being offered to us in Juneteenth as a federal holiday? An opportunity for Black people to celebrate freedom from slavery. Friends, we have a flag that it's called the United States of America. The last time I checked, this is what the Civil War was for, that we would have a more perfect union. And though it's not perfect now, it has never been perfect and it never will be perfect. It is a more perfect union than it was. It is a more just society than at times it has been. I dare anybody to try to argue with me. And I've heard people try to say ridiculous stuff to me about how slavery and oppression of Black people is worse now than it was in the 1860s during the Civil War. I dare somebody to come out and try to say something dumb like that to me. We have a flag. It's not this flag. We have a American flag. And this, my friends, is what it is that we should be celebrating. Oh, wait, hang on. This just in. Breaking news. We already have a day of celebration for this flag that brings us together, which has created such unprecedented opportunity for Black people, white people, Hispanic people, and all people in this country, greater than any nation in the history of the world. It's called July the 4th. And so as much as I have grown up appreciating Juneteenth celebrations, all the barbecue chicken, all the different things that Black people get a chance to do on Juneteenth, I do not need a holiday to eat fried chicken. I can eat fried chicken whenever I want to eat fried chicken. And if I don't want to eat fried chicken, I don't feel like I need to eat fried chicken. But maybe I'll eat fried chicken today. Who knows? But July the 4th, my friends, is our Juneteenth. It is our memorial. It is our labor. It is our Independence Day. And lest we lose sight of this flag and what this flag represents for some of the nonsense, Pride Month. What the hell even is that anyway? You should be proud that you get a chance to live in a country like the United States of America that'll let your gay ass do some of the things that you're doing and get away with it legally. If you lived in Nigeria and some of the other countries in the world, you would not, it's outlawed. You could not live that way. It's a cancer to society as it is, but we will let you live this way in the United States of America so far as you don't harm other people. We can talk about harms later on. So this is why I'm so incensed that we have devalued this flag and the importance of this flag, elevated things like this, elevated things like pride flags and pride this and pride that to the devaluing of what this flag really means. Okay, I've got some Thomas Sowell for you. And I apologize, my language is a little bit frank there. It's probably a little too much there, but in the spirit of, I'm gonna ask the Lord to forgive me. In the spirit of just getting a little bit worked up today, I gotta play you guys some Thomas Sowell, because this is where I believe we really do need to dig in and find ourselves appreciating the United States of America, not the black flag, but the United States of American flag. And the comment section is on. Like I said, we're not running from that smoke, but here's what I think we have taken for granted in our culture and our society. This is Thomas Sowell.
Most of us know that whatever our color or condition, we need only to see the hunger in Africa, the blood in Lebanon or the Berlin Wall to realize we are better off here. Even among free nations, America is blessed. Deep thinkers don't look at it that way. The very phrase 4th of July can bring scorn to their faces. Anything the masses believe in is suspect in their eyes. They don't compare the United States to other countries, but to their ideals. Every wrong in this country, past or present, proves to them that it is not worthy of noble creatures like themselves. It never occurs to them that tragic wrongs are found wherever human beings are found. Anyone looking for a sinner need look no further than the mirror. Everything human is a failure compared to ideals. To build a beautiful world of ideals takes only an active imagination, some free time, and a nice vocabulary. But the world people live in is the world of reality. And to make that world decent and free takes much hard work.
Yes, it does.
Much sacrifice, and many young men buried under a sea of crosses at places like Normandy and Iwo Jima.
Let me just pause for just a few moments and recognize what even the price of being able to get on a live stream like this and discuss these issues, controversial or not, is exactly what Thomas Sowell is talking about there. It's not some think tank somewhere or some idea that someone has on a chalkboard. It is the actuality of what freedom costs people. And listen, there's some history that's important that's related to Juneteenth, but there's not that history. That history that Thomas Sowell is talking about is American history under the red, white, and blue flag.
Ideals have their value, but ultimately ideal visions are a cheap substitute for reality. For those with a cheap substitute to look down their noses at the real thing is a little much. If America could be summed up in one word, that word would be freedom. Those of us who grew up with freedom may take it for granted, but tens of thousands have died trying to get here for it. In just 1 year, 40,000 people died trying to cross the Atlantic from Ireland alone, back in the days of the sailing ships. Even larger numbers of boat people have perished in the Pacific in our own time.
He's speaking facts. I'm just going to go ahead and say Thomas Sowell is speaking some facts here that people need to wake up and realize. The many people who have come into our country, look, we'll deal with that. When I'm president of the United States, I'll deal with that. I've got a solution for all of that. But think about the thousands of people who didn't make it to our country en route to our country because they were trying to get to our country from somewhere else. Just think about that. They were willing to risk their lives and even lost their lives in pursuit of trying to come to this country because the ideals and the application of how one could apply themselves and then move forward under the banner of freedom was so massive that they would risk it all. They would roll the dice. They would move in abject and averse conditions to try to get to this country so that they could have that reality be a part of their lives. They weren't grown up in this. They weren't born in this, but man, they certainly did desire to have this and didn't make it. And so to we who have been given much, born in Texas, grew up in Texas, played college basketball in Tennessee, master's degree education back in Texas, 11 years now on the job here in Nashville as a music artist, traveling around the world. Look, I'm not taking any of that for granted. Thank the Lord. And you should thank the Lord too. If you're watching this live stream, it's because you have internet. If you're watching this live stream, it's because the Lord has blessed you with maybe a computer or a device that you have in your hand to be able to watch this. Let us not devolve into the smaller things, the smaller segments and smaller pockets of American life and neglect the larger story, of which, yes, Black people are a part of that story. But let's not make Juneteenth a celebration of the fact that Black people are the story. That's the part that just kind of rubs me the wrong way.
The desire for freedom is so much a part of human nature that politicians and deep thinkers try to call other things freedom in order to sell them. They try to call it economic freedom when the government guarantees you food, shelter, and other basics. Prisons have that kind of freedom. So do communist countries. People try to escape from both, often at the risk of their lives. The freedom of America is the freedom to live your own life and take your own chances. The American Revolution was more than a rebellion against England. It was a rebellion against the whole idea that some special anointed could tell everybody else what to do. The Constitution of the United States is pervaded by the conviction that no one is to be trusted with too much power. Long after kings and dukes have faded into the background, other kinds of the anointed have arisen, convinced that they should be running our lives for us. All sorts of beautiful things are supposed to happen if only we give enough power and money to the new anointed. If only we surrender our freedom to our betters, they will solve our problems and create social justice. Haven't we heard that one before too many times? Hasn't it been tried already?
And Thomas Sowell, it's not like he's young, but he's been around long enough. He knows enough about the system. He knows enough about what it is that he's looking at to say, look, this is a complete sham. And he's calling out some things that need to be called out. I appreciate that. Thanks, Thomas Sowell. I guess we need to figure out who the next Thomas Sowells are going to be. We need to be the next Thomas Sowells. And a history teacher myself, my favorite blockhead. He will get on here at some point. I'll have him on the show at some point. We'll talk about these things. But suffice it to say, I'm going to end the show with Michael Knoll because we need to be out in an hour. And this is great as well. I don't agree with necessarily all of it, but I don't agree with all of anybody's comments, much less do I agree with all of my comments from time to time. But here's Michael Knoll. It is a little bit farther than I would take this on the conservative side of things, but I think that it is very much appropriate to have this soundbite and to think about it as we go out the door. Thank you guys so much for watching the Erskin Music Show on the Juneteenth special surprise edition of the Erskin Music Show.
American certainly doesn't unite people, and it doesn't mark the end of slavery, either in the Emancipation Proclamation or in the 13th Amendment. It doesn't mark the end of anything. It marks the day that the mailman made it to some random part of Texas and told the locals that Lincoln had freed.
Not quite the same, but his point, I appreciate.
Some of the slaves 2.5 years prior. Virtually no one in the country had heard of it until a few years ago when white liberals started pretending that it was a really important day to black people, virtually none of whom had ever heard of it either. And then because the white people thought the black people really cared about it, everybody started pretending that it was a thing, and now it is a federal holiday. Whatever obscure local tradition Juneteenth is based on has little, if anything, to do with the current holiday, which liberals created 3 years ago and named, crucially, the Juneteenth National Independence Day. Why did they do that? In order to replace the old Independence Day, which is the 4th of July.
All right. Parting comments today, because let me get out of here. We go to the Juneteenth celebrations, and I've got some ways that I think that you guys can improve that. I'm here in Nashville. We meet at Fort Negley, and we'll be there a little bit later on today, the Juneteenth celebrations. Here's some things that I think you could do to improve that event. Nobody asked me, but I'm gonna tell you anyway, because that's what I do on my show. Number one, you could stop making the rhetoric around Juneteenth celebrations opposition to and oppression from white people. That just doesn't play well. It's 2024, and black people are waking up to the idea. Many have already woken up. The real woke people are woke up to the idea that all of this rhetoric toward white people and about white people is just mind-numbingly ridiculous. And so let me be clear about the fact that one of the ways that you can improve this is to stop yelling at white people about being white and how oppressed you are and being a victim. Number two, the second thing that you could do to improve your Juneteenth celebration, at least here in Nashville and other places, I don't know other places how you do this, but when you have a large platform and you have people who are speaking, stop yelling at white people and telling them that they are bad. Oh, that was the same point as point one. So point one, stop yelling at white people and telling them they're bad. Point two, stop yelling at white people and telling them they're bad. Point three, well, you thought I was going to say the same thing? I could, but point three is literally this. If you want to raise up some black talent and put that on the stage because people need to see black talent, you guys have way too little Erskin music on your platform. Oh, man. Like he says here, sheesh. I just think it would make your Juneteenth celebration better if you would have some Erskin music at the Juneteenth celebration. I don't know. Maybe good music heals a lot of ills and social wounds that are there. It's the Erskin Music Show. So glad you guys could tune in today. And again, I do apologize for some of the spicy language today. It upsets me a little bit when people devalue the American flag and what people have fought for. And this country is not perfect, but we certainly are moving in a direction. And if you will help me move in that direction, we can move in that direction together to make a stronger, more united states of America. And God bless all you guys. And we're out. Erskin Music Show.